removing the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women from its recommended immunization schedule. Your statement was not about repeat boosters. It says the vaccine is not recommended for pregnant women. The vaccine is not recommended for healthy children. 41% of children aged 6 months to 17 years hospitalized with COVID between 2022 and 2024 did not have a known underlying condition.
Let's hop into a Face the Nation interview with Trump's FDA Commissioner Marty Makary to debunk some MAGA nonsense about vaccines. But first, if you can, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out tremendously in the algorithm, gives the video a boost, and let's see what context and debunking we can add.
I want to get now into some of the recommendations that have been very specific this week from the CDC and you with the HHS Secretary in this video announcement on Tuesday. Where Secretary Kennedy said the CDC was removing the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women from its recommended immunization schedule. He then had a memo to the CDC rescinding recommendations for kids' vaccines, saying the known risks do not outweigh the benefits. Then late Thursday, the CDC said, quote, shared clinical decision making, which I think is just talking to your doctor,
yes,
should determine whether kids get vaccinated. Can you clearly state what the policy is? Because this is confusing.
Yeah, we believe the recommendation should be with the patient and their doctor. So we're going to get away from these blanket recommendations in healthy young Americans because we don't want to see, well, on the COVID vaccine schedule, we don't want to see kids kicked out of school because a 12-year-old girl is not getting her 5th COVID booster shot.
To be clear, we should all absolutely want kids kicked out of school with no hesitation and not allowed back in if they are not vaccinated. The idea that we would open the door for kids to be introduced to disease and sickness like innocent children because one parent wants to role play the Wild West is incredibly dumb. Also, the removal of the FDA recommendation has bigger effects in insurance. Insurance isn't going to cover it if it's not recommended by the FDA, which will instantly cut the number of people who are able to get the vaccine for sheer financial reasons rather than actual health reasons. And that's, again, including those who can need it. And we'll get more into like numbers about the vaccine as the video goes on, but the risks are no more risky than the ones you accept taking Tylenol and in no way outweigh the massive benefits.
Dr. Prasad and I published this in the New England Journal of Medicine last week, and we're basically saying we'd like to bring some confidence back to the public around this repeat booster strategy theory because...
Your statement was not about repeat boosters. It says the vaccine is not recommended for pregnant women. The vaccine is not recommended for healthy children. That's different than annual boosters.
Yeah, at this point, we're dealing, it is a booster strategy. People would be getting the updated shot. So whether or not a young, healthy...
Kids who haven't gotten
so
a
we'd
shot?
like to see the data. We'd love to see that data
but on a
doesn't
practical
exist.
level, for a parent at home hearing you and trying to make sense
We're
here.
saying take it back to your doctor.
If their child has not been vaccinated, are you recommending that their first encounter with COVID be an actual infection?
We're not going to push the COVID shot in young, healthy kids without any clinical trial data supporting it. That is a decision between a parent and their doctor.
I'm going to have to write an article about this because they keep telling this lie. There's plenty of clinical trial data on specifically kids, all ages though, and we also know that it's actually safer and more effective in younger age groups. We have meta-analysis of over 10,000 children, another of over 3,000. We have the individual studies with the clinical trials. They all show high rates of preventing COVID, equal or higher to what we see with the vaccine of influenza, where 9.8% of children around roughly each year still get influenza. The COVID vaccine is 91 to 99% effective in children. Again, the side effects that they always want to point to are mild at best in children. The whole myocarditis thing is an absolute lie that you hear. MAGA always says this in my comments, so I might as well address it. Among all ages, but kids too, prevention of COVID is far higher than the myocarditis rates for a vaccine, and you're far more likely, like 20 to 30 times more likely to get myocarditis from COVID than from the COVID vaccine.
So the CDC data said 41% of children aged 6 months to 17 years hospitalized with COVID between 2022 and 2024 did not have a known underlying condition. In other words, they looked healthy.
So,
and COVID was serious for them.
So first of all, we know the CDC data is contaminated with a lot of false positives from incidental positive COVID tests with routine testing of every kid that walks in the hospital. When I go to the ICU, when I walk to we know that data historically under the Biden administration did not distinguish being sick from COVID or an incidental positive COVID test. When you go to an ICU in America and you ask how many people are in the ICU that are healthy that are sick with COVID, the answer I get again and again is we haven't seen that in a year or years. And so the worst thing you can do in public health is to put out an absolute universal recommendation in young, healthy kids. And the vast majority of Americans are saying, no, we want to see some data. And you say, forget about the data, just get it anyway.
Okay.
So many things here, and it's all incredibly disingenuous. First, an incidental finding isn't the same as a false positive. That is a wild thing to say. If you accidentally find something when you're in the hospital for something else, you still have that thing, and that thing still affects your health. Second, the CDC has led the way in helping practically eradicate or seriously reduce almost all infectious diseases that have came to America. Measles, the severe ones, right? Measles, polio, smallpox, tetanus, whooping cough, mumps. You glad these aren't a major issue in America? Well, thank the CDC. But yet, these clowns want to convince you because they were personally upset about measures taken in a short period of time to hopefully prevent and fight against COVID-19, a disease that killed more Americans than Vietnam, the Civil War, and 9/11 combined, twice as much than those three combined. And despite 90 to 95% of the CDC recommendations having clear statistical benefits in preventing the disease, the transmissibility of the disease, or the mortality rate, MAGA wants you to now not trust the CDC, an institution that has successfully eradicated all of these infectious diseases and done so for decades because, well, Trump and MAGA doesn't believe in COVID. Like, what are we doing here?